Hello students, in our last class we have done the heading that is blood, its composition. Then we have learned about the blood group, RH grouping, and we have done the heading blood coagulation. Now in our today's class we are going to learn about the circulatory pathways. Now the circulatory pathways are basically divided into two categories, that is open circulatory system or pathway and closed circulatory system or pathway. Now let us see what is meaning of open circulatory pathway or system. It is a type of pathway where blood is pumped by heart and that blood moves to blood vessels, and the blood vessels further carry the blood to body spaces or cavity, which is known as sinuses. Okay. So this is open type. So what happened? From heart, the blood goes to blood vessels, and from blood vessels it is poured into body cavity. And this body cavity is known as sinuses or spaces. Okay. So this is the open circulatory system. And this type of circulatory system is present in invertebrates, that is mollusks or arthropods. Now let us come to the next type of the system or circulatory pathway, that is closed circulatory pathway or system. Now here the blood from heart goes to blood vessels, and from blood vessels it again moves to heart. So this is the closed system where the blood is not poured in any type of the body cavity or spaces, and it is flowing in the blood vessels. You have already learned about the blood vessels in your classes. Arteries, veins and capillaries are the different type of blood vessels, and their function is also very well known to you. So basically the annelids, the chordates, they are having this closed circulatory system where the blood flow is regulated, and we can find out the blood pressure also very precisely here. Now let us look out for the different type of heart in the vertebrate groups. When you talk about the vertebrate groups, then the vertebrate group is divided into 5 classes, that is Spicions, Amphibians, Reptiles, Birds and Mammals. These are the 5 classes that are written here. Now you have learned about the type of heart or number of chambers present in the heart in these individuals. So let us come to the first individual or first chordate class, that is Spicions of Fishes. The fishes is having 2 chambered heart, that is 1 auricle and 1 ventricle. The heart is basically dealing with the deoxygenated blood, and gills is basically meant for oxygenation of blood. So what happened? The water which is having the dissolved oxygen through mouth, it enters the mouth and then it is passed through the gills. The gills, the blood get oxygenated. This oxygenated blood is carried to body parts. In the body parts, the blood is getting deoxygenated, and this deoxygenated blood further reach the heart. This type of circulation is known as single circulation, because here the blood is moving through heart only one time, and that is why this is the single circulation. Now let us look out for the another group, that is amphibians, reptiles, except crocodile. You leave the crocodile in the group of reptile. All these are having the 3 chambered heart, that is 2 auricle or 2 atrium are there, and 1 ventricle is there. The left side is having the oxygenated blood and the right side is having the deoxygenated blood, and both the blood are getting mixed up in the ventricles. So the auricles are the separate chamber, whereas ventricle is the single. Now this type of circulation is basically known as incomplete double circulation. Now the question arises, how these individuals can tolerate the mixing of oxygenated and deoxygenated blood. These individuals are cold-blooded animals, that is they can tolerate the or they can change the temperature of their body according to the surrounding, and that is why they can tolerate the mixing of oxygenated and deoxygenated blood. Now come to the last group, that is the birds, mammals and crocodile. Here the heart is 4-chambered, 2 auricles and 2 ventricles. The oxygenated blood is in the left side, whereas the deoxygenated blood is on the right side of the heart. Now the oxygenated and deoxygenated blood are kept completely in the separate chambers, and they are warm blooded. That is, they require the constant supply of oxygen, and for that the oxygenated and deoxygenated bloods are in the different sides and they do not mix with each other. So they need to maintain their body temperature, and for that only this type of circulation is found, where the 4 chambers are there, with completely left side dealing with oxygenated and right side dealing with the deoxygenated blood. This is known as double circulation. This is the brief account about the different type of systems, that is the circulatory pathways, the different type of heart that is present in the individuals, that is the coded individuals or vertebrate individuals. Now the detailed account regarding the 4-chambered heart in humans we are going to study as we will proceed in the chapter. Okay, now let us learn about the human circulatory system in our today's class. Now a brief account you have already learned in your previous classes, so you very well know that what our circulatory system is formed of. It is formed of heart, which is the pumping organ. Then it is formed of blood, which is the fluid connective tissue, and the blood flows in vessels, that is the blood vessels, which are thin tube-like, and they are basically divided into 3 types, that is arteries, veins and capillaries. Now arteries basically carries the oxygenated blood from heart to body parts. Veins carry deoxygenated blood from body part to heart, and capillaries are very thin vessels that are joining the arteries and veins. This much content is already known to you and you have already learned it in the previous class also. Now let us see, or let us have the detail about the structure of the heart. The heart is made up of cardiac muscles. It is mesodermal in origin. We have learned about 3 germ layers, ectoderm, endoderm and mesoderm. So your heart is derived from mesoderm. That is why it is mesodermal in origin. And it is located in your thoracic cavity or the chest cavity, just between the lungs, and is tilted slightly towards the left side of the chest. Plus this heart, or our heart, is having the double layer wall or a covering or a protective shed that is known as pericardium, and in between the 2 layers is a fluid present that is known as the pericardial fluid. Now the human heart is 4-chambered and it is having the upper 2 chambers which are known as auricles and the lower 2 chambers are known as ventricles. Now the heart is basically divided into 2 sides, that is the right side and the left side, and so the chambers are named. See, you can see right auricle, right ventricle. The upper chamber on the right side is a right auricle and the lower chamber on the right side is right ventricle. Same way on the left side, the upper chamber is a left auricle and the lower chamber is the left ventricle, right? Now you see that these 2 chambers are going to receive the blood from the body parts, and these 2 chambers are going to pump the blood away from the heart to the body parts. That is why auricles are less muscular and ventricles are more muscular. Okay, because they have to pump the blood with pressure. Left ventricle is the most muscular chamber because it has to pump the oxygenated blood to body parts. So left side is dealing with oxygenated blood and right side of the heart is dealing with deoxygenated blood. Okay. Now you can see there is a complete separation between the left side and the right side. See this separation. There is no connectivity between the left auricle and the right auricle, and left ventricle and the right ventricle. These are totally separated from each other by this septum, which is a continuous septum, and this septum is known as Interauricular Septum, IAS. This septum do not allow the mixing of oxygenated and deoxygenated blood. Now the next septum that is separating the ventricle from both the ventricle is the IVS, that is Interventricular Septum. So it is not allowing the blood which is present in the ventricles to mix with each other. So right side and the left side are totally separated from each other and they do not allow any mixing. But you will see that the blood from the right auricle will come to right ventricle and blood from the left auricle come to left ventricle. So this is the septum. Again you can see this septum. This is separating the auricle and ventricle of the respective side. So this septum is known as Interauriculoventricular Septum. And this interauriculoventricular septum is provided with valve. What does this valve do? It connects the auricle of the respective side with the ventricle so that whatever blood auricle receives, it can go to ventricle. Now the right auricle and right ventricle are having the connectivity with the valve which is known as tricuspid wall. Why it is known as tricuspid wall? Because it is made up of 3 flaps or cusp. That is why this is the tricuspid wall. Whereas the left side is having the wall which is made up of 2 flap or cusps. That is why it is known as the bicuspid wall. Same way, the ventricles of both the sides are also having the wall, and these walls are having the common name, that is the semilunar valve. Now again children, what is the significance of these valves? The most important significance of these valves is that once the blood moves in the forward direction, these valves will close and they will not allow the flow of blood in the backward direction. So what is the function of valve? Whether it is a semilunar valve or tricuspid valve or bicuspid valve, the function is common, that is they prevent the backflow of blood. Once the blood had moved from one side to another side, it will not revert back. So this is all about the external structure of heart.